Seeing is believing. And how can you possibly get to see the Xbox Series X's incredible graphics without a solid 4K monitor? Despite what die-hard PC fans may say, the Xbox Series X outputs impressive performance on a monitor just as much as it does on a TV. So let's take a look. The ASUS monitor is an excellent alternative to some others on this list if you really want that gaming aesthetic. But I should warn you, it will cost a pretty penny. Some $2,000 in fact. Now this monitor is best for those that want to use it for more than just Xbox gaming. Because while it'll still look good on the Series X, it is definitely more geared towards PC. It's 4K, has a 1 millisecond response time and 144Hz refresh rate. So it's not messing around. But unfortunately, it lacks a HDMI 2.1 port, which basically means if you're using an Xbox, then you won't be able to fully experience that 144Hz refresh rate. But for PC gamers, it's no problem, thanks to its array of PC ports. That's why I'd only recommend this monitor if you lean towards PC gaming more, but also enjoy some Xbox gaming on the side. This monitor is perhaps one of the best budget monitors for the Xbox Series S rather than X, since its resolution maxes out at 1440p. I'm going to get the cons out of the way right now, because it has a VA panel, which means if you're not viewing this monitor exactly face on, the colors will appear to be washed out. Its HDR feature also leaves a lot to be desired, because the monitor doesn't get very bright when HDR is enabled, meaning that HDR really doesn't look that much different to SDR. On the plus side though, for just $300, you can get a 1440p monitor, which has a refresh rate of 165Hz and a response rate of 1 millisecond. So if you can put the faults aside, then you have a monitor which is nearly perfectly geared towards the Series S. And if you're a competitive player that plays games like Rainbow Six Siege, then that's even better, because this monitor can make a huge difference in performance, thanks to the incredibly high refresh rate and low response time. Oh, and it handles really well in both dark and bright rooms because of its high contrast ratio. The best budget monitor for the Xbox Series X has to be the Dell S21QS. $375 will get you a solid 4K monitor with a lot to offer. Admittedly, it does lack that 120 FPS support, since the panel maxes out at 60Hz refresh rate, but it does make up for it in nearly every other way. For starters, it's a simple-looking monitor that will blend with any setup and is pretty ergonomic too. It has an IPS panel, so you won't get any washed-out viewing angles that come with other panels types. And it's just a really good-looking screen as well. It does have HDR, which is great, but in this case, the HDR does dim the screen a little, so it's not massively impactful. Though even without HDR, the screen has a great contrast ratio as well as anti-glare technologies, which makes this monitor really hassle-free to game on. The response time is decent at just 5 milliseconds, but obviously that's not as good as some of the previous entries. So if you expect you'll be competitive gaming on, then this monitor probably isn't your best choice. But it is a great all-rounder since it has built-in speakers, which is always nice. Here we have another Xbox Series S monitor with a max resolution of 1440p and a refresh rate of 144Hz. It's the same model as the previous Gigabyte monitor on the list, except this edition has an IPS panel instead, meaning colors are more accurate and vibrant, and the viewing angles won't be an issue. It also has a 1 millisecond response time as well, so it's pretty much the same monitor as the other model, except it has an IPS panel. Possibly the best Series X monitor for darkroom gaming is this one right here. Straight away, this is a 4K and 60Hz, so won't be able to capitalize on that sweet 120 FPS output, but it does make up for it in other ways. It's a VA panel, which means viewing angles may be lacking somewhat, but sitting face on, it will produce some deep blacks and bright whites. Colors are decently vibrant, and response time is 4 milliseconds, so it's a decent monitor that will definitely excel in darkroom situations. Now, I really don't know if you could consider this one a monitor, but I'll explain why this LG TV might be the best monitor you could buy that isn't actually a monitor. It's a 48-inch, yes, 48-inch screen that looks incredible. Of course, if you planned on getting a monitor to put on your desk, then this one definitely might be a bit too big. But if you include it as a TV replacement, then you could consider it. Now, it should be said that this screen is definitely not going to be for everyone, but it is an OLED panel, so it's going to look the best by far out of all the monitors on the list, and it doubles as a TV to watch movies on. So hey, that's got to be good for something. 4K and incredibly good HDR on an OLED panel means the picture quality is just unparalleled. The blacks are as dark as can be, and the whites are so bright. And that paired with the vibrant OLED colors means this TV looks phenomenal, especially in dark rooms. It doesn't stop there either, because this TV boasts a 120Hz refresh rate, has FreeSync and G-Sync to stop screen tearing, and has a response time of 1 millisecond. You can see why it costs $1,500 now. It should go without saying, you will not find a better screen overall for gaming. But of course, it isn't actually a monitor. Samsung tends to make very reliable and impressive monitors for office work and lighter stuff. But this time around, they've made a monitor that looks and feels gamer. This is without a doubt the best monitor for the Xbox Series S, and actually somewhat overkill. You could use this for PC gaming, and it would still be impressive, because while it does cap out at 1440p resolution, it has a refresh rate of 240Hz. Now, by no means will a Series S be able to go up to 240Hz, but it's nice to have that nonetheless, especially if you plan on using it for PC gaming as well. It is a larger monitor at 32 inches, which is good or bad depending on your monitor preference, and its panel is VA, which may be the only drawback, since that means viewing angles could be problematic sometimes. Having said that though, the color contrast is very good, and the monitor will be pretty vibrant and crisp, especially with HDR and FreeSync enabled, alongside that rapid 1 millisecond response time. Now for the best gaming monitor for the Xbox Series X, we have the LG 27-inch GN950. $800 is no cheap price for a 27-inch gaming monitor, but it is fairly priced, and you'll see why. It basically takes all the best aspects of every monitor on the list and combines it into one monitor. It's 4K, 144Hz, and has an IPS panel. Games will be able to be viewed at all angles, with no color washing issues, and you could really take advantage of the Series X's 120 FPS capabilities, even in full 4K. It also looks great, with pretty good colors and contrast ratio, and it is superb at blocking glaring light. With the exception of the TV, the HDR in this monitor is probably the best out of all the other monitors on this list, since it is genuinely noticeable. It also has a response time of 1 millisecond, so it's great for competitive gaming as well. The only critique I'd have of this monitor is its performance in dark rooms, since it tends to get pretty dim in that sort of environment. Anyway, which one would you get? I'd personally go for the TV, to be honest, but let me know what you think down in the comments. And remember to like and subscribe.